Hello, everybody. Welcome. Kia orana, Wula, Talofa, Yakwe, Maori, and Malo Elele. Thank you so much for joining us today, taking time out of your, I'm sure, very busy day to be here with us. My name is Maria Tran. I'm a Senior Project Officer with ADB. And before I start, I want to just quickly acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which I am dialing in from. I'm dialing in from Sydney, which is the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and then also acknowledge, I guess, the traditional owners of the lands in which we are all dialing in from today. I'd also like to thank them for their caring of country, land, sea, and water over many generations. So I think that was particularly important on a day like today, World Water Day. And the theme for World Water Day this year is accelerating change. And I hope that through today's webinar, you can find some useful takeaways that you can bring back to your everyday roles to kind of accelerate change in your organization. So before I get to the agenda, I want to quickly just go through the webinar house rules, which you see on the screen. I'm sure many of you have seen this before, but just to make things run smoothly, if we could please mute ourselves while the presenter is presenting. If you want to raise your hand to ask a question, that's totally fine. You can find your raise hand function in the Zoom toolbar, either at the top or the bottom of your screen. If you don't want to say your question or comment out loud, feel free to use the chat box. We've got people monitoring the chat box and they can speak on your behalf if you don't want to. And then we will have a Q&A portion after the presentations. So you'll have plenty of time to ask questions then. As you've seen from all the advertisements for today's webinar, the theme this week is non-revenue water. On the agenda today, we will have some opening remarks from ADB and also PWWA, who are co-hosts of this webinar series, which I think has been going on for since 2020, and this is the 16th we've had in the series. After the opening remarks, we will have presentations from our presenters, which I'll do a more proper introduction to them later. But Dean will be going through just the fundamentals of non-revenue water, which we sometimes shorten to NRW. Kudus will be going through some examples and case studies from Tonga and their experience, and so will Julius from Samoa Water Authority. As stated, we will have our Q&A session at the end, and then we can have a closing group photo. But finally, without any further ado, I would like to introduce Leah Guterres, who is the Director General of ADB's Pacific Department, and she's here today to give us some opening remarks. Leah, if you're there. Hi, Leah.
Oh, hi, Maria. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. As you know, as we all know, it's World Water Day. So happy World Water Day to all. And also welcome to today's Pandemic Watch webinar, which is actually the 16th in this series. And as Maria noted, this was actually started in the beginning of the pandemic in 2021. And this is now a successful and long-running series that we have had the pleasure to co-host with our partner, the Pacific Water and Wastewater Association. I would like to acknowledge the PWWA CEO, Lucia Cefoleo, and colleagues from the PWWA utilities, and government agencies across the Pacific, along with our development partners and colleagues from ADB. The theme for this year's World Water Day is accelerating change. It's asking us how we can all take action to solve the water and sanitation crisis. It is fitting that non-revenue water is our topic today, as it will take everyone, all of us, from utilities and government, development partners, NGOs, donors, and communities to tackle this challenge. As we all know, well, not quite we all know, I guess we know by now. Anyways, the global non-revenue water volume is estimated to be 126 billion liters per year, or losses of nearly 40 billion US dollars annually. Please keep in mind that this figure is actually 4 years old. So in 2023, this figure might actually be higher. In the Pacific, utilities may lose up to 60% of their water to non-revenue streams, or sometimes even higher. In a world of rapid urbanization, climate change, growing freshwater scarcity, and increasing demand, reducing NRW is central to achieving water security. I would like to pose some questions for consideration during today's discussions. First, when utilities are losing significant revenue that could be directed to operations and maintenance, the need for really good baseline data becomes critical. So how can we embrace technology and innovative solutions to actually generate this, to collect this? Second, how can utilities harness resourcing across government, development partners, and donors, among others, to build stronger networks across the sector? Third, our communities are a central part of the solution to NRW. So how do we bring them along for the journey? How do we empower our communities to act on leaks and illegal connections? And finally, last but not the least, how do we ensure water security is a shared goal for everyone? Today's webinar is an opportunity to learn from each other and explore a challenge that impacts every water utility in the world. We must find ways to achieve we must find ways to achieve substantial reductions in water losses, and we will only succeed by doing this together. We are looking forward to hearing from all of the speakers today on their experiences managing NRW and learning how they are innovating, planning, and managing lost water. We're also looking forward to everyone else sharing their experiences and asking questions and suggesting solutions. Again, thank you. Best wishes for an engaging discussion. And again, happy World Water Day. Thanks.
Thank you very much, DG Leah. And then I think those questions are something that are very relevant to today's discussion. Next up, I would like to welcome the CEO of the Pacific Water and Wastewater Association, Lucia Cefo Leao. And I'd like her to be able to give her opening remarks. Lucia?
Thank you. Thank you, Maria. And talofa, everyone, and welcome to the first of our webinar series this year. And I must say, I'd like to thank Leah for, collaborating, for ADB's collaboration with us on these webinars, which started sometime back in 2020. We are grateful for this collaboration. The past webinars have not only been a useful avenue for sharing knowledge and experiences, but also for building a network of industry and utilities community that shares similar challenges and hopefully come up with solutions. Today, we discuss a topic that is a recurring and persistent problem and challenge. Yes, worldwide, but very much in our BWWA utilities. A look at the BWWA benchmarking indicators over the past 11 years is very telling on this issue. Non-revenue water in Pacific utilities range from 40%, 50, 60% to as high as 80 to 94%. There are maybe only 2 utilities that are in the 20s. These are the utilities such as UNALCO in Vanuatu and Caledonia des Eaux in New Caledonia. And you probably know why they why they do have low non-revenue water. A notable improvement over the 11-year period has been Samoa Water Authority, which from a high of 70% NRW back in 2011, has reduced that consistently to about 45 to 48%. And the Tonga Water Board, which averaged about 37% over the 11-year period, though there is a period of time when it rose fairly high before it dropped again. For all others, for all other utilities who are our members, it has mostly been a roller coaster ride and has been persistently high. So non-revenue water is water lost and represents for us in the Pacific a significant loss of resources and revenue that we cannot afford to let go. On this week, when we commemorate World Water Week with a theme of accelerating change and acting now, we as Pacific utilities probably need to take stock of the causes of NRW and map out how you are to approach the problems in the immediate and in the long term. I thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to listening to the presentations and your participation. And happy World Water Day. Thank you, Maria.
Thanks very much, Lucia. I think it was very timely for you to share some of the thoughts around the 2 water utilities that have done exemplary work to reduce their NRW over the last decade or so. So I guess I want to introduce the speakers now. Firstly, we'll hear from Dean Taylor. He's our Pacific WASH TA utility advisor, and he'll just go through some fundamentals of NRW so that everyone's kind of speaking the same language and on the same page. And then we'll hear from Tonga Water Board, Deputy CEO, the engineering manager, Kudus Fialea. And then Samoa Water Authority will share their experience on the great work that they've been doing. We'll be hearing from Julius Mathis, Rural Division Non-Revenue Water and Leak Detection Engineer. Then in the corner there, it's just me facilitating you through this discussion. So Dean, I might hand over to you now so we can get started.
Excellent. Thanks, Maria. And happy World Water Day, everybody. So it's good to be along and talk about what to me is a really fascinating topic. And it's something I've been working on for a large part of my career now. And it's really fascinating because it involves engineering, customer service, finance, economics. And it really is a complex problem that we're trying to solve in the industry. So what I'll briefly go through is really what some of the topics are that we normally cover off on a 2-day training course. So it really is just an overview of the fundamentals this morning. And Leah was saying that World Water Day, the theme is accelerating change. And it's really interesting to think about non-revenue water, how long we've been trying to grapple with this problem. There's a good book that I've got. It's really a translation of a book that was written 2,000 years ago by someone who had the title Aquarius of Rome. And he talked about the issues they are facing with the aqueducts. So the same problems we've got today, water loss, NRW and theft. So all these sort of factors that we're still trying to grapple with. So it's a bit sobering to think about how much water we're still losing as an industry, and the fact that this problem's been around now for a couple of thousand years. So hopefully we really can get stuck into it and accelerate change. So thanks, Maria. So next slide. So why is this such a problem and a challenge for commercial utilities? So you can see there the list that Maria's starting to bring up for us. We're trying to grapple with a complex problem that involves social issues. So we're dealing with people and their access to water, and political issues. In some of the countries that we're working in, I've seen some of the people pop up today. I'll know a lot better than I do about the political issues they're facing. Politicians make promises that they'll solve people's water problems so people get connected without any real thought about how people might pay for it. Many of the utilities that we're working in the Pacific suffer from underinvestment in metering and poor metering practices. So it's not uncommon to see over 50% of the meter fleet out of service, or we've seen meters that are up to 40 years old in some countries, and they're really poor results that come out of that. So a big loss of revenue there from poor metering. Poor construction practices. So you can see there in that photo there, some of the construction and repair practices. Massive problems with illegal use. We see that in every country. So even countries in Australia that are wealthy with low water charges, people still steal water. And some countries that's particularly settlement type areas, that gets even worse. Utilities in the Pacific are often suffering from rapid population growth. So more and more people are coming in, connecting to their system. And within our industry, there's an overall lack of non-revenue water management skills. What have we got next there, Maria? That's not the end of our challenges. That we often, most of the utilities have to be commercially viable. And when you think about what that means, it means that, we often look at demand management. So we're trying to encourage our customers to use less of our product and still do more and more. So it is really a challenging commercial environment that we face. So how do we do more with bringing in less revenue? And that's often a factor that, that we have to do that with customers because of the scarcity of water. And some of the solutions that we're looking at are really, really difficult to implement. So if we're dealing with trying to reduce the theft of water, remove illegal connections, hugely challenging. With our aging systems and a lack of investment, it's often difficult to find the money to go and fix all the problems. And because our pipe networks are buried systems, it's actually really difficult to go and find the leaks. And even the best systems in the world get to a point where they're starting to make huge investments in NRW and getting diminishing returns. So engineering-wise, it's challenging as well. So next slide, Maria. One of the biggest factors in NRW management that often gets lost, people say, how are we going to tackle NRW management? We'll appoint a team. And there's nothing wrong with an NRW management team, but we have to recognise that NRW management, to get good results, takes across the business support. So you can see there are all the factors that impact on it. So for information, management, capacity and know-how, so recruiting the right people. You need to get your commercial operations team involved, asset management, operations, customers, making sure you've got enough money allocated to it, and really importantly, management support. So we often get the question, how do we structure the team? Do we have an NRW team? Do we do this across the business? Because you can see how many stakeholders are involved. And the response is that it doesn't really matter how you structure the team, that it's not going to work unless you've got really good coordination between the groups that are doing all of those functions and some sort of strategy to work to. So you can see down the bottom of that slide there, there's a reference to where we're getting some of these graphics from today. It's called the NRW Manager's Handbook, and it's a really good guide. It gives a great overview of the complex problem of NRW and how we can go about tackling it. So we'll make that link available today and you can download that after the webinar. Because if we don't get on top, we face this challenge. If you can bring up the next slide, Maria. I think we're probably all familiar with what happens in our businesses if we're not on top of NRW. And you can start anywhere on this, the vicious cycle of NRW. So the more that NRW goes up, the less money we bring in. The less money we bring in, the more money that we have to focus on meeting customer demands. And often that comes out of our budget, so operating and capital budgets. And the less money we've got for operating and capital to spend on maintaining our systems, the more NRW goes up. So you can see that that circle just goes around and around, and eventually you get substantial problems in your utility, that you've got unhappy customers, not a lot of money coming in, and high loss rates. And I think we've all seen that. So what we're trying to do, if we bring up the next one, Maria, is to flip that around. So it's obvious, you know, if you can start to get on top of your NRW and start to bring more revenue in, it actually helps decrease your operating costs as well, because if you're not losing water through leaks and breaks, you've got more water to sell, or you need to produce less water, particularly in countries where they're running desalination. That becomes a huge issue there. And the more money you bring in, the more money you've got to spend on your system, the more investment you make, the more you can drive NRW down. So that's what we're trying to get to. We really need to turn it around. So the next slide, Maria. So Lucia mentioned about the roller coaster ride some of the utilities in the Pacific are on. And we see this across the world. So this is not uncommon. If you look up in the top left there, this is taken from actual utility data. And I could have put data up from 3 utilities that I'm thinking of. One of them's here in Australia and 2 in the Pacific that have got almost an identical pattern in their long-term NRW. So you can see there that over a period of time, and I think that's about 6 weeks, the NRW level went down. And then for some reason it went back up, and now it's coming back down again. And the fundamental thing that happens in a lot of utilities is the change of focus. So often boards, CEOs and executives say we've done a great job on NRW, we've brought the level down, and then naturally the focus changes. So priorities and resources move on to other important challenges in utilities, and NRW goes back up, and then there's a concerted effort then's required to bring NRW back down. So the challenge is to work and recognise that this is a long-term problem. And what we need to do is to drive NRW down to a level where it's not economically viable to do anymore. And that'll be different in every utility, but then to hold it and maintain it there. And that requires the long-term focus. So if we have the next slide, please. So Leah mentioned about the importance of having good data and to have a great baseline to work from. So hopefully everyone's familiar with the water balance there. That's the IWA water balance. We brought that in a few years ago to try and standardise, quite a few years ago now, to standardise the terminology. So you can see there that to get on top of your NRW, you really need to start to break it up into its components, and to be able to fill a water balance in. And each one of those cells on that water balance is really a topic for itself. And we actually break it up like that to the training we do. Actually, how do you come up with build meter consumption, for example? And what about customer meter inaccuracy? So the topics in themselves, but what we need to do is actually analyze all of those components and start to put numbers there so we can understand where our water goes and what's driving our NRW. So if we could have the next one, please, Maria. So you can see there that actually, the revenue part of it's only the things that we send a bill out for. That's pretty obvious. But the next slide, Maria, shows all of the things that go into NRW. And often people just think, if they're thinking NRW, people think leaks and breaks. They don't actually think about all of these other things that are really important. So what are the components of water loss? And you can see that there's physical and commercial losses. So there's so many ways that we can be losing either water from our system, the physical losses, or losing money because we're supplying customers with water that they should pay for, but we don't get the revenue from. And yeah, so here's an interesting one. So this is often what people think about for non-revenue water. So if you can play that, Maria, it might be a bit loud, so block your ears. So that's pretty spectacular. We don't need it twice. Thanks. Stop that. So we don't actually, yeah, that's a thing that we see, and I've seen, and I think anyone that's worked a long time in utilities has probably got a collection of photographs and videos of things like that that happen. So really spectacular, and people think, wow, that uses a lot of water. But you can see there from this diagram that how much water you lose is actually a function of how long it takes to become aware, how long it takes to locate and then repair a problem. So a big break like that one we saw was actually from the Ukraine. You know, you would have found out about that pretty quickly, shut it down quickly, and you know, the immediate water loss would have been pretty large. But when you look at the bottom there, so things like an undetected leak on a small pipe, you can lose substantial amounts of water because you might not ever find that that's happened. So the awareness could take years before you've gone that problem, and it just builds up over time. So keep that in the back of your mind that often the biggest, most obvious things aren't your greatest sources of non-revenue water, particularly for rural losses. So how do we manage all of this? So we need to think that we need different strategies to manage all of these components that we've hopefully looked at in our water balance. So real losses, it's typical things, pressure management, leakage control, faster repairs, and making sure that we've got good management practices in place. We'll never be able to fix every leak we've got in our system, but what we're trying to do is, they call it squeeze the box. So minimize the physical losses you've got and get it down to the part that's unavoidable. So that's what we're trying to do with those different techniques there for real losses. And we'll have a look in the case studies about how that's been done. And the next one, Maria, is the apparent or commercial losses. So they're things like meter errors. And as I said before, some of the Pacific meter fleets have got substantial errors. And when you sit down and do the calculation, that's a lot of revenue. It was in the millions of dollars in one Pacific utility that we were working with. They hadn't realised that their age meters were losing so much revenue, and the estimated bills they were sending out were substantially under what they should have been. So we often lose sight of some of these things that drive non-revenue water on the revenue side. So what we're trying to do with these different techniques as well and different strategies is to minimise the commercial loss and again, get it down to what the economic target is. So we'll never have perfect meters, but we need to have a good metering fleet. So that's been a really quick overview and a breeze through on trying to set the scene. That NRW really is a complex problem, and it's a challenging and interesting problem, but it does take that long-term focus across the utility. And we need to focus on both aspects of it, so the real and commercial loss. And one of the things, and again, it's been mentioned before this morning, is about the engagement with customers is really vital to NRW management. You can see from that photo there, and just have a look at that. That's from one of the Pacific utilities we were working with. Just have a think about how much water you think might be going in it. That had been there for years, apparently. Someone had cut that pipe when they put that channel through. Just have a guess how much water was lost there. If you want to do that calculation in your head, we estimate it was about 1 litre a minute. So 1 litre a minute leak that's left going for a year is about 500,000 litres of water. So imagine if that was underground, or if a customer has seen that leak and you haven't got good engagement with your customers and they just let it go for a year, and that won't have been there for a long time. So you can lose substantial amounts of water from those small hidden leaks that you're not aware of. So engagement with the customers is vital. So you find out about those, and also vital you get in there and fix them. So I've been known to talk for the longest was 2 days without a break on NRW. So I better stop there and I can hand over. And so Kudus from Tonga Water Board will take us through. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you, everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Hello. Yeah, thank you very much, team. I'd like to continue on from that. On short note, present what is our experience in the Tonga Water Board, and those long years, 8 years, probably 8 years of dealing with non-revenue water. Up to now, 8 years of struggling. We have a few actions on the way that I think will be very important to you guys aware of what we have. Here is our colleague from BWWA mentioned that we've been progressing along the way. Stand that we were getting comfortable with level of non-revenue water at the moment, around 30%, and we still have a few infrastructure project coming in to still try to reduce the non-revenue water. We just recently completed under ATP project of network distribution network. We put it down to 13 zones, and I think after that project was commissioned, then we have an extension of the non-revenue water component, which is currently being implemented. We're working within those 13 zones to break it down to a level that we can manage non-revenue water within those 13 zones. Well, that's how we start, but I think we'll go back to the presentation. As everybody aware is that if you can continue to the next slide, we have probably 8 of these non-revenue water topics that you may be aware that this is a bit about us. Was commissioned in 1966. We have our own Act 2000, which was recently updated in 2002. This area of operations, we are only operating the urban areas of Tonga, which is Nuku'alofa, the main capital here, and Neafu, Pangai, Hefo, Hapai, and Eua, the island of Eua. I think it's worthwhile to understand that the setup of the water system here, rural villages is probably 50% of the population. They are under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Health, and they have each villages. They have their own village water committees that operates the water system there. So we are only responsible for the Tonga Water Board for the urban areas, which is on the screen. They're all 100% metered. Every connection is metered, and we have our tariff system read on a monthly basis, and people are charged accordingly to the issues they have. We used to receive subsidy from government, but since the last few years, we managed to work without any subsidies from government. We generate enough revenue to handle our operation. We have 108 staff, and 28% are female, 72 are male. I think that's it about that slide. If we continue on to the next one. Some considerations that have been doing in the past. As we are aware that this is basic stuff, need support and budget to make sure that you operate the water system efficiently. Water is a basic necessity of life, and that's very important. The economic crisis, the social crisis due to lack of water. That's probably more on international stage, but I think it's happening down at region, but I don't. And one is I think it's important to is the water conservation for everyone. This is a business approach or mindset that we should be operated in trying to address non-revenue water. Please continue on to the next slide. Why do we talk about the struggle? I think back before these 8 years, that's all what we have been struggling with. Is not understanding the problem, the magnitude, the sources, and the intensity of the non-revenue water, how it happens. Lack of capacity, insufficient training staff. We managed to do some capacity building through under Australian funding project back in the years. That's helped a lot. Our system previously we still have those old fibrillite pipes, the asbestos one, and aging, the system was aging badly at the time, and then we have this major upgrade by the Japanese government back in early 2000. So it's all the problem with NWR was all. This is all the major points that contribute to but we managed to get some project to address those back in the years before we get to a stage that we feel comfortable with it, and then we start forming up our non-revenue water strategy to reduce the thing. But this is all the major struggle that we faced back in the days, and I think it's a very common problem that happens in most of the water utilities in the region. But right up to now, I mentioned before that we already have 13 zones in our network, and we're still struggling to get those 13 zones to control the flows in the system, and we are trying our best to. I think our intention is to get more flow control valves to those zones, so that we can control it better and we'll be able to manage and do all those step testing and all those things within those. But overall within the system, as you may be all aware that non-revenue water is a much more whole approach where you've got to address the real loss and the apparent losses, which is a major part, and you can break it down to metering and all those things where you've got to address all those things to make sure you are on the spot with managing your non-revenue water. Please, next, please. I think Tin already touched base on this. We just what is non-revenue water, what that is supplied, plus what you can read through all those meters, and then just the water balance. How accurate you do it depends on the aging of your water meter fleet and how you manage them. You got to have a good billing system and all those stuff to help out with the thing. It's important to have very accurate data, and then you can strategize a way of getting to reduce your non-revenue water, which is I will talk about it in the next slides or two. Please continue on. As Tin already mentioned in his previous presentation, this is all the components, fiscal losses and commercial losses. And back to the eight years that we have been working on minimizing the non-revenue water percentage in our system, I think from the start we finally made a brave decision back in 2019 to replace all our water meters. We introduced a smart meter system here in Tonga for the Tonga Water Board, and we managed to replace all meters within 3 months of meter replacement. We ripped out all our old mechanical meters, replaced it with smart meters, which is ultrasonic water meters. And you may be aware that many more meters are due to hard and the thing, and then ruin the television. No moving parts inside it, and it helps to but we make the decision back in 2019 to do all those, and after the average water sales prior to that was about 130 megaliters per month, and after that replacement program, we managed to increase our water sales from 100, from an average of 130 to 170 megaliters per month to 200, varies between those, that figure. And I think that really helps a lot with our, it was just, that increase was just from meter replacement. And I guess most of our non-revenue water prior it was on the metering side of the thing. We also managed to reorganize our field staff, get more staff to do the repairs. When we increased our field staff, we used to have 3 teams, 3 gangs, and we managed to up it up to 7 teams just to handle the repairs and all those things on a timely basis, and then just make sure that every week there is a certain time frame to do all the repairs and make sure they are completed on time. And then, but that's how we managed to get in place to reduce our apparent losses. On the other side, which is the real losses, we do some study at the time, and then we just realized that maybe we didn't have major leaks on the network, but we have a lot of small leaks. And then we decided to increase the number of field staff to address it. We also inform our water meters to our meter readers to report every single leaks they can pick it up on the water meters and into every property on their monthly visit. And then we go from there. But that's how we try to address, because we did that study and then we just realized maybe after the Japanese replaced all those major pipelines and all those things, and we just realized that most of our leaks was not big leaks, but small leaks, but a lot of them in the network, and they are occurring on stockpiles. Some are leaking on the clamp and all those small connection water meters. But the lucky thing, they are all visible, and it's just a matter of reporting it and repairing it, getting our repair stocks at the stage that we have materials for repair. I think all those things, when we start having income, retaining revenue from fixing leaks and replacing water meters, that generate revenues that helps us to fund most of the replacement that we come through throughout the 8 years that we've been trying to reduce non-revenue water. Please, next. I think I already touched base on this establishing management team to develop strategies and all those things. These are all that's what we have been doing for 40 years. Verifying customers, we just deal with a lot of this stuff. When we did this meter replacement, we make sure that everyone is metered. That's other positive stuff about the meter, smart meter, that we can be able to get hourly readings from those meter readers and from those meters. And any increase in or complaint on high water bills and high water usage on those meters, then we'll be able to talk to customers that's by showing them the readings, probably at night times, that the water is still flowing into the property. And all those times we managed to do a lot when we just replaced the mechanical meters with ultrasonic meters. But all those points are fairly basic stuff that needs to be addressed to make sure you handle all the errors, make sure that you are very efficient on dealing with the system. Please, next. I think this is probably a record of how we have been coming through the years with this is basic. This is the water balance, which is punching the numbers throughout the years, and you can probably see the development in a struggle to reduce non-revenue water, straight from 2014, financial year 2014-2015. That's the water in the water supply, and on the next column we have your authorized consumption and how we managed to increase from 42% to 72%, 70% back in 2021. And down at the bottom, that's non-revenue water losses. And we have this, I have this, with those other columns, we have a more detailed analysis of the water balance, which addressed all these bill of rights consumption. But this is basically the result that we have been through for the years. And I think the major development that we focused was replacing water meters, fixing leaks, which is we found out that most of them are small leaks, but they're not major leaks, but small leaks, and was a lot of them is the system and that can be managed because most of them are visible. So it's just a matter of eliminating all those simple things. And I think that's very important when we look at it after those years. And I think non-revenue water in the Pacific or in Tonga is best up handled when you think of it as a elimination process where you can probably make sure that your strategy, the first step you try to take the easy stuff out, remove it, isolate it from things, so you start getting results.
Hi, Kudus. I'm just giving you a warning on time, so we'll just if we can
okay.
just to get Julius also able to present.
But yes, thank you for that. But this is I'm getting I think to the end of it. But this is the result that we've been through, and I think I already addressed what we have been doing in the previous years of that 8 years of work to get the NRWP water to that level. Now, I think now we are getting down below 30% now, and hopefully when we start breaking down the system down, then we'll be able to go past 20%. That's the dream, but I think that can be achieved if we invest on this and ensure that we on a yearly basis we have budget and resources to do that. I think that's probably the whole thing. There are those others in the presentation. It's just detail of it, but I think I touched on what was really the backbone of the strategy to reduce it to that level. I think I addressed what you've been through, and
thank you so much, Kudus.
To answer for, yeah.
No worries. And a copy of the presentation will also be available on our website after this. Further, the recording as well will also be available on our Pacific Watch webinar webpage. So we'll email that to all the participants later. But thank you very much, Kudus. And I want to welcome Julius Mathis now to our online stage. He's the Rural Division NRW and Leak Detection Engineer for Samoa Water Authority. Julius, please. Over to you.
Talofa lava and warm welcome. Happy World War Day again from Samoa here. I'm just gonna go a little bit in the introduction of the Samoa Water Authority, the water utility provider for safer and drinkable water for Samoa. And within the authority, we have 3 operation divisions. We have urban division, which cover pretty much the Apia town area. We have the rural division for all the rural sites in Polu Island, and the last one is Savai division on the Big Island. So those are the 3 operation divisions that incorporated within the SWA. Well, so we got for information, we got a corporate plan which incorporated a vision which drive us through what works, which be a sustainable water and wastewater utility provider fountain of excellence. However, the topic we're talking about today is the non-revenue water, which is by far the last previous years that, despite the effort that we put in, SWA puts in, I have to say that this is the number one enemy in terms of losses that we have. It comes with it. So we have the physical losses and commercial loss. Next slide, please, Famal Mole. Can you go to the next slide, Mark? So the context of the presentation, we're going to go through the challenges, the issues, for information. We have done a collaboration project with the people of Okinawa through JICA in 2014, 2019, which is SEPSO 1 project. And next one is SEPSO 2, which is the ongoing project at the moment. We're going to go for capacity building of the staff and members and public awareness program. Next, please. Challenges. So these are some of the major challenges that the authority has been facing throughout the years. We have the financial support. We have active work plan on active at the moment, as well as developing activities like leak station activities, and so those activities we need resources like equipment and tools for the implementation of those work plan. And also as a result of those activities, and we will come up with line replacement, repair works, and etc. But they are depending on the financial support and assistance. However, for the authority itself, we have very limited budget to assist us on those aspects, but we still managed to go through with some priorities that have been set. Lack of experience and knowledge. The next slide for a moment, please. Oh, sorry, Maria. Can you go back? Yep, lack of knowledge and experience of so far. For the past years, SWA members have been not exposed to knowledge and skills, and in the field where need to set priorities on the NRW, on ways to reduce NRW. Also, there were a limited number of trainings available at the time. So ever since SEPSO 1 project, there were a lot of experts that have been dispatched and assist us on the effort to prioritize our action to reduce NRW. The next one is climate change. Well, this is globally, and for information, for last year, we were experiencing extreme weather changes, which was affecting our sources dramatically. One of our big system in Savai Island was also have experienced receding water, which is haven't happened before, which drive us, our management and the mentioned director, to drill a borehole for a supplement supply on that system. So we're also taking to that account at the moment on the ways that we can go forward from. COVID-19. Yes, we have a lot of restrictions, which causes delay in our activities, and especially NRW activities, leak detection, night surveys, and also collecting data. For information on that time, we were relying on our customers to provide their meter readings. So there was a lot of issue there. Staff turnover. Yeah, we also experienced that challenge. Some of the trained staffs were being able to move to other authorities. Next slide, please. Here we have issues, some of the major issues and how we managed to counter them. For information, majority of infrastructure and assets are quite aged. So what we did, we conduct leakage surveys. This was night surveys, and from there we prioritize the areas which have very high leakage points, and replace it. We also done some water balancing analysis study to determine which distribution line we can replace at the time with with available budget to do so. Another one is limited resources. Yeah. Apparently, we have some tools and resources available at the time. So just manage to manage them wisely in the order of trying to do the job as it is. We also did formal request and for financial assistance in available donors like JICA and other donors. Next slide, please, Maria. We have issues with data discrepancies. Yeah, like I mentioned before, the one that we dealt with the COVID, and also with our meter readers, and we have some issues there. So the Samoa Water authorities have incorporated SCADA. But at the moment, we only in phase 1 and 2, which is focusing on taking the levels of our tanks, monitoring the levels. So I think the next phase will be looking at monitoring pressure and looking at meter data collection, so that we can help us with the human error thing, the delay in the data collection, and also we got a accuracy of the data that we're gonna collect. SWA is interesting in exploring digital transformation in whatever technologies available which can assist us in this issue. And next one is illegal connections. Unfortunately, we're still facing with those issues. So we have what we do follow survey for suspecting cases. So at the same time, we incur a fine for domestic uses at the 1,000 tala, Western Samoa, Samoan tala, and it's at 2,000 for commercial cases. Next one, Mario. Can you go next one? Okay. SEPSO 1 project. As I no, sorry, can you go back? SEPSO 1 project, as I mentioned before, a collaboration with the Okinawan people through JICA. So this project was 2014 and 2019. So we have the overall goal as delivering a safe water supply. But so this project was covering the urban area. One of the system in the urban area, our system. So we have 5 outputs. Those outputs have a corresponding city waterworks that have been assisted us throughout this project. What they did, they sent us dispatch some expertise from each city with corresponding outputs to assist us during the whole project. We've been we've been also collaborated with sending our team members over for training for 3 weeks. I think we had trips for 3 trips a year. So with the help of the Okinawan people through JICA. Next slide, please. So here we have some activities and surveys as well as training on site that we have been that was done during SIPSO 1 project. We have the experts from Okinawa doing on-site training for lead detection equipment. And we also have an expert from JICA Tokyo doing a leaks survey using ultrasonic flow meter on transmission line for our system. About 150 water pipe leakage surveys that we've conducted during that period. Most of the surveys were done at night. So on the far right, we have the biggest leakage that was found during the survey was about 12 liters per second on the transmission. Unfortunately, the water didn't surface, was just soaked underneath the ground. So we managed, with the help, with the assistance of the experts, we managed to find the leakage, big leakage. Next slide, please. So here we have the data for Alawa water system and one of the other system follows so JR, Malolei, and Wailima. If you see the data from say 2015, 2014 until 2019, we got a NOW of about 60 to 70 for Alawa. And after the project, we managed to brought it down to 36, with the same as other systems that were in the urban area. So it was quite a good result and a very challenging, but it was a good result for SIPSO 1 project. Next one, please.
Just a 3-minute warning as well, Julia.
Okay, no worries. We have the ongoing project at the moment, quite a similar goal and similar objectives, with also the city waterworks from Okinawa corresponding to those outputs. The only one output different from the first phase of the project is the internal training system. So we're going to incorporate within the project establishment of training system within SWA, so that we can open up to the public for training will be conducted by SWA. Next one, please, Maria. So the focus for the SIPSO 2 project, we have the Fuloso EU, which is on the west side of Apia, and also the main system in Savai Palauli. Next one, please. So here we have the SIPSO 2 brokers running at the moment for rural division, Fuloso EU. So we managed to create 8 blocks. We name it DMAs. So doing this, we can be able to monitor the flow of water flow each blocks from each box for this system. So we managed to create 8 blocks within this system. Consumption data need to be finalized. So our asset division and commercial division are working on finalizing, allocating customers within those blocks. Pressure management, yeah, of course, we also installed pressure PRV, pressure release valves, so can control the pressure within the range of 1 to 4. 4 bars, 5. We are accepting 5 bars at the moment, but that's the target for this project is to maintain the pressure within the system from 1 bar to 4 bar. We have the NLW data there for information. At the moment, we're at the 36 for this system, 36 percentage NLW for this system. Next one, please. Capacity building. Yeah, we're doing at the same time we are doing capacity building activities for our SWA staff. So every year we do through red code test. So this year the management and the managing director decided to start a practical test. So so we can do a refresher training for our staff on how to repair, how to operate our equipment on the field, and also training using the new equipment that we have, like those only 4 meters and leak detection equipment. Also, we do a monthly meeting with the ops site, confirming all the lines and be able to transfer to asset management team for register on our network. Next, please. Yeah, as you may be aware, public awareness program is quite important as well. We try to improve our engagement with the public, and by utilizing the available platforms that we available at this time, like Facebook and television and radio. We usually do radio talk programs, engaging with the public and making them aware that they can help us too with saving water and paying their bills, reporting issues like water leakage, and also illegal connections. So we can engage in a way that we help each other to save the water and also help us with NRW. Thank you, Marie. Yeah,
Thank
I
you
think
so
that's
much.
it. Happy World Water Day again. Have a good one. Have that.
Thanks so much, Julius. That was wonderful to see. I think now we can move on to the Q&A session with all our really great presenters. I might invite them back. So there's Kudus, Julius, you can stay on the line, and there's Dean as well. And before actually we start the Q&A, I forgot to mention and give kudos to Kudus, because Elisiva was supposed to be doing the presentation for Tonga Water Board, but last minute she had to catch a plane, and Kudus kindly filled in for her. So please don't go too hard on him for the questions, but I'm sure he can handle it, because he did a fantastic presentation. And thank you, Dean and Julius, also for presenting and your time and expertise. Dean, I might hand over to you for the Q&A session.
Thanks, Maria. Yeah, we gave poor Kudus a hospital pass. Took him back to his rugby days. Yeah, so we've got time for a couple of questions if anyone had anything for us. So Yeah, it was great news stories from both Tonga and Samoa to see the inroads they're making there in NRW. But I think from both those presentations, certainly said it is a journey. You can't just expect to have overnight results there, and it's really difficult to maintain it. And as we're talking about, I think the more you do and you do the easy things and get the quick wins, and it gets harder and harder as you go along.
Yes, and I
Find the
think
small things.
a common theme in both of Julius and Kudus' presentations has been the fact that the teams, the resourcing for NRW has just been increasing, which I think allowed the results to show through. I think we have a couple of questions coming in through chat, Dean, if you want to have a look and maybe call them out.
Yeah, so Vasidi, a great question. And we were pondering this as well, Vasidi. It was about community education on NRW and their role as water monitors. So yeah, hopefully that came across in both Tonga and Samoa that there's an aspect there of the community education. It certainly is really important. Did either of you want to jump in about what you're doing there, just to discuss that a little bit more about the community engagement in NRW? What about you, Julius? I think I recall from your slide you're doing a fair bit there with the community, the public awareness campaign. I think you're muted there. Yep.
Oh, yeah, yes, Tim, thank you. Yes, we've been doing some radio talk, and also on the available platforms that I mentioned. We're going ACAGE. Before there was not really strong engagement with the public with regards to reporting issues and the leakage that may be come across with. So the result of the campaign was really good. Most of the public report some of the issues, or most of the issues that they come across with. So it's quite helpful in the time of need, if that helps.
Excellent. And what about for Tonga Water Board, Kudus? So you're doing a lot of work with communities there and trying to get them involved in helping you minimise NRW. I think you're muted there as well.
Thank you, Tim. We have a massive engagement with the public on radio programs and even on TV sometimes. But even visiting schools, communities, meeting on informing them on the. And one of the things that we've been really on is to make sure places and have some.
We've got a bit of a bad line there for Tonga now, Maria.
But help having arguments with customers because we have the real data to show them sometimes, because most of the complaints are high water bills and you must have a good reason to show the data. But apart from that, we are having radio programs, TV, and all those other stuff that we reach out to the customers.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so I think from both those case studies, it really is important to have community engagement there. And another really important question that's come up is about the economics of NRWs, so the cost benefit and trying to minimise water losses. And yeah, in a lot of cases, it certainly is a no-brainer. It depends on the source of your water, and a lot of the Pacific's desalination and pump water. So it's certainly the more you can save, it certainly is a benefit there. Have either of Samoa Tonga got any data on the amount of revenue that they're either increasing or the amount of cost they're saving from their NRW?
I have some figures here for say, example, our revenue water will cost us 1.5 million per annum. Then after 2020, 2021, our revenue water goes to 2.3 million per annum. So that increase, gradual increase, was all due to the reduction in non-revenue water, either for leakages or apparent losses, which we fix with middays and all those stuff. But that's that kind of positive.
You can really have substantial benefits to your business. Increasing your revenue and reducing cost, and
and the water that you save from. You add it to the customer, you give it to the customer, you increase the per capita demand, access from 125 liters per person per day.
Yeah, and I think in some systems
last year I think it goes up to 195. Because you convert, you make it more accessible to the
and some systems connect more customers as well if you've got more water available. So look, unfortunately, I think
the improvement in pressure, water pressure, and all that stuff. You have more water to retain in your reservoir that will generate, because a meter or two of head here in Nuku'alofa, it's a very flat place. A meter or two of head is a very big thing for us. So when you retain water, because you reduce your leakages in your reservoir, that extra 2 meter heads it's a very big thing for the customers.
Yeah, it really is an interesting topic, and it's got so many benefits to a business from NRW and your customers and finance and economics. And I think the economics of NRW is really a topic in itself. We could spend hours talking about that. And where the point is that you actually stop on some activities because it's not cost effective and focus on others. So it really is a complex discussion as well. Did we have any other? We're almost out of time, unfortunately.
I know, maybe one more quick question. I think Julian from PPUC asked a question on flat rate consumers / customers. Is that still a big contribution to NRW problem identifying flat rate customers? And he said, thank you very much for all your presentations.
So I'm not sure about the flat rate customers, Julian, but I have seen in some of the work that we've been doing the estimated bill. So where a meter hasn't been working, sending out an estimated bill at a flat rate certainly has been a substantial contributor to non-revenue water, because people are using a lot more water than they're paying for. So, so in that sense, flat rate from an estimate certainly has been a problem. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not. I'm not sure if Julian's still with us, is he?
Yeah, for us in the Tonga Water Board, we don't have flat rates anymore in our system. Because if you have a broken meter, then your usage will be an average of your past 3 months or 4 months of water usage. So but we don't practice it anymore. Other than the villages, they still have the flat rates system. But it's problematic.
I have to agree with Dean. We're also having cases with flat rate customers, but it's counting the water, how much water that they're using, just paying just a flat rate, like 20 tala, for example. But the consumption of water is still not in account for, so it's substantial that it's alluded to NRW.
We're looking at some examples at the moment there that it really is causing substantial problems for the business by having people not pay for the water they're using.
Great. I do note that we have 2 minutes left, so I think I encourage people to write any other questions they have in the chat, because what we can do is pass those questions on to our presenters, and then kind of share the results back to you. So if you have burning questions, please put them in the chat. But before we go, I have two flavors to ask actually. The first is that we're going to launch a poll quickly because we have been doing these webinars for this is our 16th one, and we want to see, you know, the impact, I guess, whether you're still finding them valuable. I think it seems so that people still keep turning up, and we have some very rich discussions that we just wanted to gauge that from you. And then once you've submitted your answer to the poll, it would be fantastic if you could turn on your video for 1 second and we can all just take a group photo. So once you've answered your poll, please turn on your video.
And I think it's such an important topic as well, Maria, that if there's interest in any aspect of it, we'd certainly be happy to do other webinars on it or talk to people directly.
Yes, so at the end of this webinar, by the end of the week, you will be able to see on ADB's Pacific WASH webinar page the resources for this, so the recording as well as the presentations. You can always reach out to ADB as well. So myself, Dean, or any of the WASH TA team for further support on NRW. So I think we're okay to take a photo. I think Lass is helping me take a photo. Lass, if you could help as well. I sometimes am not the best, but please smile. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time on World Water Day. Thank you very much to our opening speakers, Lucia and Leah, and our presenters, Dean, Julius, and Kudus. And thank you for your time again. We can't wait to see you at the next WASH webinar. I can't remember actually the next date for the WASH webinar. Sinead, do you have the details of the next webinar date?
17th of May off the top of my head.
So 17th of May, we look forward to seeing you again. I think we will have some interesting topics and presenters to fill you in with, but we will put those details on the channels that you've seen today on how to get in touch with us. And also you can see more information on the ADB Pacific WASH webinar page. So thank you very much. That closes today's webinar.